Zanetor Agyeman-Rawling's Akwaba. Patch your ear microphone here, man. Yeah. Aha. Good. Yes. Honorable Akwaba na eteseng.
Nyame adom na mso e.
Nyame adom bibi aboko. Korle Klottey eboko.
Korle.
Oh,
municipal no na ye Korle Klottey. I don't know why it's back and forth.
Really?
Ni nti omo ye a municipal assembly now omo anya no same as the constituency record. The confusion but.
Yeah, the confusion but was obi frame me catch him say ye wo Korle bu in the Korle Klottey.
Easy now omo ye no Klottey calling. Who did they consult?
Yeah, that's
it's
really
a bit
interesting.
problematic at times.
Yeah, it's true. But I said constituency why you about Korle.
Yeah, Nyame adom.
Yeah, that Nyame say. You are in your second term as member of parliament, right?
That's correct.
Second term. Wow. It's been worth it, I suppose. Oko parliament no yeah.
I mean, it's been a bumpy ride, back and forth, and the reality is, even though you are one of 275, we're supposed to be representing the interests of the people of Ghana. Sometimes, the partisan issue can affect ABI because of the hybrid system practice in Ghana a president or appointees a kind of parliament sometimes when we say idea be a the question is it good for Ghana or is it an agenda of the executive and that sometimes creates a bit of a conflict of interest with regards to how people I think perform their role in parliament because say okay executive no who as an appointee and now can legislature know when the legislature is supposed to perform an oversight role with regards to the executive which side are you standing on? Are you protecting your government or are you protecting the people of Ghana by performing your oversight role? It's a bit problematic and it raises a lot of questions about what exactly is our ultimate objective as the people of Ghana when we are, I suppose, rolling out this form of democracy,
If there is one thing I would say, sign in our constitution, it will be that, right?
We need to take a look at it. It's not the only thing. There are a few other things. I mean, one of the things, to be quite honest, a hammer drain power our constitution and that at least one woman frees, say one more constituted board, for example. I almost say there should be 10 people, and of the 10, there should be at least one woman. Now at least one woman, not only one woman, and say the ratio of men to women in Ghana, then at least one woman must be scrapped. We need to look at a different ratio or a different representation or just make sure that we are fully aware of the fact that you can't just have one woman for the sake of political correctness to satisfy, what the Constitution is asking of you. And it's something that really bothers me because what's happening in Parliament with regards to the fact that currently, a man 40 out of 40 I had 20 that's right I had 20 on each side. Interestingly enough it balances exactly 20-20 but the thing is that brings us to 14%, which is not good enough because I will share the population of women in Ghana or females to males in Ghana. It's not 14% women or 14% female. If our parliament is supposed to be truly representative, then that gender balance must actually be seen. It should play out at that level. But the problem is the issue is not at the parliamentary level per se, because answer no bidru parliament, it has to go through the parties. So political party reforms are important because all the talk of affirmative action and seeing greater women representation in the House of Representatives, for example, and our parliament, for example, can't happen because even if Sauka say we need to have 50% women or 40% women in parliament, if it's not laid out within the internal mechanisms within the various parties you're just putting something on paper that will not actually yield any results.
But I don't know, what would you rather the parties do? Because parties say they've done a lot in terms of encouraging women. So filing fees me half Emma women, and they think say no is something they've done to encourage. Unless you're saying say parties no ensure that quota be reserved for women? And how many?
Well, that's one of the ways that we need to handle it. The reality is representation na is not a fair representation. And when you have a situation where there's unfairness, you must find mechanisms to level the playing field. And many years ago, I think in the 80s and maybe early 90s, at the time, President Rawlings, my father was head of state. There were instances where, in taking electricity to the north, for example, and taking it to some of the villages that were outside of Tamale, outside of Bolga, for example. Because at the time, no woman na ewo ikrasi no ain't mean to your electricity bills na. Woman na woman urban centers no. And now almost bear the cost of SAR bills, and then as time went on, their capacity to make payment also increased, Then it started being rolled out. You understand? So when you're trying to create a situation where there's an imbalance and you want to balance it out, how do you find ways? And it doesn't mean, say, as we sit here, and I can tell you, said this is the exact way it has to be done. Obviously, there has to be broad stakeholder consultation. We need to look at the way it's worked in other jurisdictions. Yatehana Edebia and Rwanda has more. Yeah. It is not by accident, Nasi. There was a genocide that preceded, but there's a conscious effort, and the political will is there to make sure, say, Womunya results in terms of a lot more women in leadership and representation. They didn't just leave it to happen. It's something that's constantly being worked on. It won't happen automatically. Egypt, for example, their House of Representatives, they had a quota system for women. And they carried it out for quite a few years. Omunya balance no and amuyi quota system. The numbers dropped again so badly they had to restore it. So there are certain situations where it won't happen by default. There has to be that conscious effort to make sure, say, balance is I don't think that it's.
I would imagine, say, for starters, maybe Anka parties could have even said, say, 40 ne can we find a way of protecting them? Prevent contest in their respective constituencies. That would have been a fair starting point. And
very, very. That's a very valid point. Or at the very least. So sure one more gather votes, for example. But incidentally, you'll find that within the two parties, since we're the two that are represented in Parliament, we're trying to not executive beer. Oka party structure no ho na contest oba na ewo ho and I say binoma e bia omani da sa seat no so they get rid of the woman obehwe no na wom de bema be a replace no and with respect and ya say mema no entimi adwuma no but if we are really committed say we really want more women to represent and not just for the sake of women representing but the reality
quality representation
of course but I mean to be fair, I mean, not all men leaders everywhere present quality.
Sure.
Even that, no crapo, there should be a little bit of room. I'm not from the school of thought that says that just to fill up a space, now do you be abakeke. Nipakrono and building capacity. But to me, decreasing filing fees is not enough. Because fine, we're decreasing filing fees, After that, the struggle you must go through to even raise funding to support your campaign. And then on top of that, the mehu ewo your politics atemdidie no a ye reserve ema no e yesronko. Niema emfa ho nyinra na ye de aka ho. When you do that, it's difficult enough trying to emerge as a woman in your field anywhere. And so when you've built up a reputation for yourself, na ebia you feel say person co-represent or crop for baby. Na che say nyema emfa ho nyinra na ye and you just ask yourself as a people, what level of respect do we have for women in our society that we should allow? Say, one more have had the courage to come out. Now, you do one more attempt to the extent that you just ask yourself, would you allow that to happen if it was your mother or your sister or your daughter? We need to change our mindset with regards to how we make the space safer for women. Otherwise, you will have the women who have the capacity, but they will not be interested in taking up those positions. Because, I have daughters. I don't want to have a situation where, and it's happened before, unfortunately. But the thing is, as a mother, no, you want to be a role model for your children, and you don't want to have to constantly be explaining to them that this thing that you heard on the radio is a lie. It's just my opponent trying to find a way to denigrate me, thinking that will destroy me so that they can gain the upper hand. And MSM, the platform will say the media must take a strong position on this.
Yeah.
Well, because if the media makes room for women to be abused, denigrated, and belittled now,
that's a dereliction of our duty.
I think so, because the Constitution recognizes the value of the media, popularly called the fourth estate. But I mean, the Constitution recognizes you, and it means that your role in protecting our democracy is key. And as part of that, saying to me, I'm protecting Emma, because Constitution talks about inclusivity. It talks about equity. Now, say if we are not doing all of that, which are all parts of the pillars of good governance, then we are talking a lot, but we are not putting our money where our mouth is, and I don't think that's good enough. 30 years into the Fourth Republic, there are certain things that are happening that we should not even be talking about. Like this conversation should not be happening, to be fair.
It's true.
If at this point, we are still having these challenges, then not enough is being done across board to ensure, say, we're changing the status quo and ensuring that we're creating a safer space and allowing for our democracy to evolve in a healthy way.
What would you tell Obia Ebiotietre Washe will rise in the political space? Because okay, for Zanetor there, Nioma Ebia ma be suffer in their constituencies, no, or no shadan suffer be ewo Klottey Korle. And then I'll be catching any panel.
I've been through it all and worse.
Klottey Korle.
I'm telling you.
Really?
Yes. Yes.
To
the extent let me give you a very interesting example. One of these days, just drive through my constituency. Uben who say Ebinuma almost standing for election 8 years ago, crapo almost posters at the hotel. People were contracted and are still contracted to rip off my posters. So then you must ask yourself, well, resources now, are you going to keep printing posters that people are being paid to rip off, or are you going to now say, well, posters don't win elections, so redirect and focus on other things. But these are some of the things that are happening. And I say, Obia Oyawo executive, they're supposed to be part of the party you belong to. Wakotna radio, so. And I just say, ripping you to shreds. And you're asking yourself, at the end of the day, we're real primaries now.
You are supposed to work
Wakotna radio, no, ekaye. In Trona, na wudino. Are you now going to backtrack and say you were lying? Where is the integrity of your speech as a representative of a party that is supposed to have, the unity and development and all these, integrity and so on as key principles of its formation? Whether it's the insults, I got my fair share. Some of 2015, a primaries new I ended up in court. For 9 months, I was in court. High Court, Supreme Court. And the ruling on that, affair was being used in the Ekosiisen case as well. And then after that, having executives who decided, say, they would work against me. I mean, that's correct. Okay. So I'm only saying this to let you see, sir, the fact that we've managed to emerge and we are still working does not mean that we haven't been through tough times. Wow. But the thing is, I believe, say, when your heart is clean and your intentions are good, now in Krofon who say you mean well, those who matter will work with you because they understand, say, you are doing it to support the community. And ultimately, I think that is what came through. And God being so good, in spite of some of the extreme propaganda na isi and crapo, I was able to win my primaries. This is the third time around. But it's not been an easy journey. But at the end of the day, you have to understand, say, yes, my father is the founder of the NDC. It did not stop people doing what they did.
That's really
I was not given preferential treatment in terms of whether my seat was protected or not.
Even when na opapatiasin impo.
Sa otiasin na yedeme call court no.
Yeah, I remember.
Exactly.
I remember.
And he was still alive for my first two primaries.
Yes.
I was not given any special dispensation. I was not exempted from elections or anything. So I've been through it. There are people who have, come through the primaries who in some cases they were going to be contested. The almost step it down. I've not had any of that. No.
And as like party establishment and then for Kasama almost step down, right?
In some cases, yes. So the point is, I did not come into this expecting preferential treatment. I came in knowing say adwuma na ye de akoma ne ya dreaming and working together with others. The challenges are real, but I think ultimately so obi te hona bia or dream while also obi sa no ho very critical questions.
So or dream was okay.
What are your reasons behind it? And understand say these are some of the challenges, and are you willing to go through to the end? Because it's very easy to actually to feel a little bit I don't know what word to use. You will regret the decision. We'll say
regret the decision to.
No, I haven't regretted it, but there've been moments where I've had to really dig deep, because you ask yourself, say, it's not out of selfishness now. You're doing it because you believe that there's a contribution that you can make to your community. There were tough times, but that's why I'm saying so obi epesa or yes adiana, you really must be sincere to yourself about your reasons why. Homework the difficulties, or at least some of the challenges that others face, so that you can at least prepare as much as possible. Of course, you can't be 100% prepared for some of the challenges that will come. But just like going for a job interview, so now a little bit of a footing with regards to a better understanding of the lay of the land. With that, now which I try.
My next question would be, Sisiano, what contested with third primaries? You are now the candidate of the NDC in your constituency. Say, 1 month for a call to the polls in December 2024. A footprint on the constituency on Beshaka say, okay, when Zanetor Zanetor third term,
I'm saying what I'll have to do is I'll have to divide it into various sectors. Because to come up with any plan, you can't be too ad hoc about it. In spite of the fact that as a member of parliament, my main mandate is supposed to be within the parliament itself, making laws and our oversight role and everything. But within the constituency, my human touch, the interaction with constituents, I think is very important, because ultimately and if they can't get a sense of who you are, I think that's a little bit it doesn't help. That is an important part. From the health aspect, I divide it into the interventions and then infrastructural support, where I've actually clinics now a constituency. Not just during COVID, but infrastructure support. Baby to say Osu maternity. Now woman here UV light, say akolana winya jaundice. Kania na yedisi no ne court no. So I provided some of those ne Doppler machines. Ne say opinions and na opesa check your baby heartbeat. The machines for checking those, provided some of that, and then a electrophoresis machine. I did check blood. So for example, obi or sickle cell and BB sana. They don't have to now take the blood sample elsewhere. Provision of a few other bits of equipment for them, because that's what they required. Usually, you do a needs assessment, because sorry, the way clinic. I do my tours of the constituency, the health facilities. Here, then provide those ones. The thermostation clinic, for example, a water thermostation hono. The facilities were not the best. I recently provided them with 2 hospital beds, examination beds. Now, in terms of also supporting, the Adabraka Polyclinic in Masano, like provision of like disinfectants in In addition to that, from the point of view of ABI, like interventions, social interventions, also providing regular health outreach programs. Because overall, but in general no who say communities bi wo ho a ebia nipa kro no onim say ebia o high blood pressure but sikana anka e was audito edro no a oni bi nti on fa edro no nti yes programs here and on the my kwan we either identify new patients who have high blood pressure for example and now say one more nim say one more high blood pressure and diabetes that one ntimi to enro no we provide the service including enroni na we provide for free. Say the beya no because Sabio obi eba be hu health screening no. Neti awaba ho no onim so diabetes onim so high blood pressure but all bano edronunti and oba which is fair because abia edronunti or call check up or hospital check into oba san na you checking ipa krono na you who say abia in the blood pressure na e was right ho na you bisa no say you know what's the situation na fe ye de edrona ma no say the beya embe to say waba ya ka che ne say ni say ndro we no here na the prescription ma no na onkoto into we provide everything there so that we have that full cycle at the premises. Breast checks, so cervical checks, no so eka ho ema ni nano, and then you know we do the dental and so on. So it's almost like a mobile clinic. Yenya sa doctors, ne nurses, ne pharmacists are mobile. We come together, we do this, and then we do them in the various sectors. As you know, the constituency is made up of 11 electoral areas.
11.
Yes, not
like
9.
A big constituency.
It's huge and it's very densely populated. But you see, sometimes a man for Enenam Quine so the major roads now one will name the extent of poverty and you know the difficulties that people are having because on the main road it looks like there are no problems here, it's commercial and so on. But so in Grandfather because are me. So you know in the inner city Honoma you realize that there are a lot of real issues where a lot of people are living in extreme poverty. And see some of these projects or programs now, interventions, it's really to make sure so we're not leaving anyone behind. Now, say your schools, no, so you know, we also divide that between the infrastructural support, for example, and then you know the intervention. So intervention, providing math sets for all the school, the children who are doing their BEC, which is something I've been doing for the past 7 years or so. Now, Niema to say recently, a friend was saying. Sanitary pads, Emma, you know, Emano as well, because you see, sometimes what happens is people talk about this issue of young girls missing out on school and think of only the rural areas, but it's not the case. There's a lot of poverty in our urban areas as well, and sometimes what I say NGOs na ya bano their mind is totally focused on the rural areas, and what happens sometimes is those in the inner cities, in the urban centers, they are also living below the poverty line, end up never benefiting from some of these interventions just by virtue of the fact that they are in the urban cities, in urban areas, and they are almost the invisible group, you know, and then provision of furniture for the schools, you know, because, you know, once again, Bibi to say, you know, tables. People keep looking at pictures in, you know, villages somewhere far outside of Accra, where they're sitting on blocks and they're sitting on broken furniture. But if you go to some of the schools right here, you'll see that the problem is very much the same. And it's heartbreaking because, say, we're in 2023 now, in Kolana Omo school, in Konyana Omo Tinasono. Akonyane bu inti akolana otso no krapo ade teacher no kano
on simple.
No, because it's difficult. It's difficult to see. This is Accra, and it's difficult to see these things and ignore. Another intervention. In a basic school. One of the electoral areas. Ringway. Now here a KG block. Because nanka almost say you know because of the way the school is set up. No, some of the children are hono. Their siblings are in another school, and the complaint was that they wish they had a KG in the school as well. Said the bank kolana betimi start and then finish up to the JHS level, for example. And see, those are some of the interventions that I've also done. And then with regards to educational support, supported a lot of people to the tune of over 100,000 Ghana cedis for at the various levels. You know, people keep saying, say, free SHS, but the cost involved in providing for one child who's going to free school, sometimes cost now sometimes it's more than what it was before, and so there's quite a huge financial burden. And parents are really struggling. And see, we're doing a lot of support for children and young adults. Iowa constituency, you know, of course, you know, the procedures you have to make sure. Say, Akolano and pass and now school. I being the constituency itself. Ninyamasa provision of books, science kits, and so on for the various schools and so on. And sometimes just supporting the schools with lights because all sorts of social vices going on in the school.
Classrooms.
They come to school one day, their school has been broken into. Women really are fans, no ninyamasa. And see, it's been a bit challenging because trying to make sure, say, I'm liaising well with the police. And then also with the assembly, because strictly speaking, strictly speaking, assembly, Juma. But say, if I have the means to actually do something now, that's what I do. Into one of the cluster of schools I work at the Braka sector, no, they did not have water. Trese, Afedi, and Kolano, part of their duty when they came to school was to actually go and fetch water, you know, in order to make sure they had water in the school. Into I provided a borehole for one of the cluster of schools there, because there are about 6 schools sharing that whole the huge premises over there, Nyamasa, you know. And then of course within the religious area as well, provision to some of the mosques and the churches in Nyamasa, and you know, celebration of Homo, for example, because it's, you know, you can't ignore the cultural aspect of any community. Into support for the various royal houses, no ne wulome ne jase, and all of the various traditional leaders are a war constituency, no nini na kaho, plus even supporting the police with motorbikes at some point, because they said they didn't have enough bikes for patrol to, you know, ensure security of the constituents, you know, provision of street lights. It's actually sounding like I'm an assembly member than a member of parliament, but I think what I do in parliament, no, I think, you know, the statements and the questions on the floor and a lot of committee work, you know, this in my second term, I was given the position as a deputy ranking member on the Select Committee on Defense and Interior. So I'm part of the leadership there as well, and we've had quite a lot to do there as well. And see, apart from my role in Parliament, participation in debates and all of that, no, within the constituency, because you're asking constituency, and then sports as well. Sports is a very important thing to me.
I saw a video recently, Anna.
Oh no! Why did I even go there?
No, I know that video. That video trended really well.
I was even
it was
surprised.
all over the place. Well, I know a competition be
so it's not a home award now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, celebrations, and you know, to add some extra excitement to the atmosphere. Now I thought, you know, it would be interesting, because they to football, because traditionally I've always sponsored the home football between Osu and La. They do the home and away games every year, and I just, you know, personally, I have diverse interests when it comes to sports. For me, you know, said the overemphasis, no, our football, no. So I felt, why don't we add something else to that, you know? And I thought the bodybuilders and the weightlifters might find some, you know, something else that would be of interest. We organized the competition between the Osu sector and the Adabraka sector. Yes, and Osu. I went as a co-sponsor and as the MP hosting the event. Mete ho a say mema obi fans mete ya MC no say. Then MP no, so I'm sorry now. Oh my goodness. You know, and of course, I mean, I was wearing my ripped jeans, and the trainers were not even the right one. It's me kono crowd, but now me bump say mama could say. Oh, but it was a lot of fun. You know, it's good to get a lot of our, you know, our young people involved, because we have to recognize, say, if we're talking about encouraging the youth, getting their interests, we need to recognize that they don't all have the same interests.
Yeah.
And it's unfair to impose what we think
On them.
We must understand, say, ABR, these are the different interests that they have, and try and make provision so that we have this level of inclusivity. Beyond football. We have volleyball, we have tennis. I've supported a lot of children. I think it was over 100 or so children, gave them tennis rackets and trainers and balls and everything, because if you're keeping young ones occupied with sports, sports gives you discipline, it gives you that level of commitment to something, and perseverance and all of that. So, and of course, the health aspect of it is very important. Yeah. And then if we look at...
my producer just got the video.
Something.
And see, more share live on YouTube. Ube video.
That's so funny.
And that's the honorable member of Parliament. Hey, now, wait, no.
Oh, no, I'm way to kakra, but
Wow. But
that
was really good. Why is it something you do quite often?
But
that's the way do.
So you have to position yourself properly, otherwise you can actually injure your back.
Wow.
Inti minim said na nkrofo so say na obi gina ho or shout good posture because so posture no nya when you na we pra. So you have to be very particular about how you do that.
Wow. That's nice. That's really nice. Isn't it? Where the Homo Games Honorable MP co-sponsor.
Many Ironman supplements in a year, because I just thought, well, if we're trying to promote a healthy lifestyle, how do we make it easier for people? Because if promoting a healthy lifestyle is too expensive, it's difficult to encourage people who are trying to make ends meet. And what we did was, in the partnership, everyone who participated, almost a supply of supplements for their participation. And the first 3 places, had vouchers to the tune of a couple thousand cedis plus cash in addition to that, and a supplements at the account, so that at least they know that in doing so, we're encouraging them to keep that healthy lifestyle, and that will help to encourage other young people to get involved. Because what would be really nice is we would try and raise some money to be able to set up a gym in the community so that they can train properly. Because if you had actually watched the rest of it, and Kauben say there were some of the people from some of the areas, they were not really able to do the weightlifting the right way, because almost the local gyms they're not using the correct equipment. To be able to provide them with the correct equipment means that they now learn how to do it properly, which means that if we're looking for representatives for Ghana, say a Commonwealth Games, then we have people even in our constituency who can also at least qualify for those things. Then so the sports, a lot of that, a lot of support to football as well. But then also, just from the point of view of the markets as well, I've supported a lot of the markets. We have the Adabraka Odona, we have the Osu as well. And with the Osu, there's the day and the night markets. The day markets, they were looking for some kind of seed funding so that group out now. So supported them with that, for example. And Osu night market, what the problem was with them was stoves was producing so much smoke that it was actually affecting their health. And as a doctor, it's something that was of great concern to me. And see, when they did mention it, I went there a few times. Honestly, those days, so Rahua, you can't actually see clearly because of the smoke. Now, so black suit now was on. You can see sometimes it was even falling on, on the food and so on.
Which picture is this? Where market?
Where your donor?
Odona.
Yeah, way Odona. Okay. This was a tour when we were going around, because there was there'd been a fire shortly before that. And it was just to engage them and find out how far the municipal had come with trying to support them, with rebuilding the markets. We are still waiting for that to happen, because Samobeka in 2020 there was a huge fire that happened, and I remember it because I think my father had just passed away, and the fire had just happened. And so I was actually in black that day. My core hot time, market, got destroyed that time.
Yeah.
So with the Osunite market, for example, what I did was we got the a group from the University of Ghana. Actually, no, it was the University of Science and Technology.
Okay.
And what we did was we measured the output of
smoke. Okay.
Before and after we installed the stoves. And in doing so, we wanted to be able to provide scientific data, say, the intervention that we did actually yielded results. And not just by saying so. We measured the particulate matter, we measured the carbon monoxide emissions before and after. And there was a drastic reduction in, the production of, carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, I beg your pardon, and then the carbon, particles. So we definitely reduced the footprint of the market, which I think we should be looking at buying some kind of carbon credits or something, because it really has made a difference. Now, for the women, what it did was it improved their profit margins, because Sikana and Kana Omodito firewood, they are buying a lot less, wood or even charcoal, and they are able to get the temperature up on the stoves very quickly. It's producing less smoke, so they're more fuel efficient as well. Because of the design behind it, it's as the women themselves say, the temperature goes up very quickly because of the heat being used, and it's almost like a jet engine kind of concept. And then because it's a closed chamber. Then also what happens as well is they spend less time cooking. But unfortunately, the flip side, well, not the flip side per se, but the current economic situation are affecting market, not to the extent that some of them are having to close a lot earlier, because nkrofo emba a market no as frequently as they used to. Things are difficult. Things are difficult, and so because of that, I've provided a lot of social intervention for mostly Emano, because they are the ones who have these little like tabletop businesses. One more year, say, and idea or business are register, but it be out on toy market could be what. And so across the constituency, we try and make sure say any kind of intervention now, it's to make sure there's equitable distribution of the resources or support across. Say the Bay and Bay to say the Bibia Ako one area, because there are needs all across the board. It's by engagement in the community now, who say Wahanum and Mana Wahano have not actually received some support, and then that's how we direct it. And of course, we have executives across the constituency who are able to feed back information on Neokoswa, where we need a little bit more support and all of that.
In your case, or MP's office and I say a constituency office now that we use to
both.
Okay.
Both. We were trying to merge it into one, but sometimes sometimes what I realized and I say ebia obi bano enye executives now person so there's that as well. And then of course my office in Parliament, which I don't use very often, because Parliament the main thing is within the chamber committee work and most of the time it's just out on the move. But generally my preference is to go to the community, because sometimes when you have people coming to you all the time, you actually lose out on the opportunity to see the reality of how they are living. Now, wait to me, who say, this is what is going on here. And then it might even inform better the kind of decision that you will take with regards to an intervention. And maybe what you were going to do would have been maybe 40%. I would do when you come here, and we realize that if you change the approach, you may be able to have a bigger impact by doing something different. And for me, that actually both my parents, because when we're growing up, my mother spent a lot of her time in the villages. I don't think there's a village in Ghana that she doesn't know. And I think just seeing that hands-on approach with regards to when you're a leader, you don't cut yourself off and put yourself in a bubble. You have to have your feet on the ground. And just growing up, because of the way we grew up, even when my father was head of state, we were really made to feel like, you can't just disrespect people. You go to school, you do the same things that everybody else does. Me call Wesley Girls. I was a boarder in Wesley Girls. Michi got us bia.
Oh, really?
Oh, yes. So it wasn't a case, papa ne man penny.
And now called dining.
Yes, with everybody.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, for me, I wasn't raised to say, "Oh, ma, so." It's your parents' position is not yours.
Yeah.
You must make your chart your own path. Of course, you cannot deny your background. You cannot deny who your parents are. But you cannot say because my father is so and so, I'm entitled to this or that. I don't think that's the right attitude either. And that's not the way I was raised. Hard work is not something I'm afraid of, but I think efficiency is important as well. You know, it's been an interesting journey to date. And it's ongoing. Actually, from here, I'm actually free happy. I may call a Osu Klottey, which is behind the castle, because landing beach now has caused the water to change its behavior in the area. And I'm just going to have a look at it and see what the situation is, so that I can actually speak to the municipal chief executive, because like I said, even though I'm the member of parliament, and most of the time you hear complaints, you can't say MP no. Sometimes but sometimes going there and listening and being able to redirect the complaint to the right person is always helpful. So I'm going to go and have a look at it now.
That's interesting. Any Honorable Zanetor Agyeman-Rawling and Aidin Komo, a member of parliament for the people of Korle, and I say Korle Klottey. For now, because it's a district no din and on a constituency no a different name. And ya won sembebri or why be science so ebusa, including the fact in 2024 be the third election. Will that be her toughest elections yet? Yebedi and Komoba. This one says that Obi, I appreciate Honorable Zanetor's point on women representation. Unfortunately, with our current system of democracy and how polarized we are, it will be difficult to have more women representation in parliament. Even if one party decides to reserve certain strongholds for women only, opposing parties, including independent candidates, are not obliged to reserve those same constituencies for women. As a result, you still have men either as independent candidates or contesting on the ticket of other parties come up against women, and it is the electorate who will decide at the end of the day. The only solution is for us to go by way of proportional representation, where parties get to appoint members of parliament based on their performance at the national polls. So, for instance, if a party wins 47% of the vote at the national polls, the party gets to appoint 47% of MPs. Then we can make a law that splits the party share among men and women. That would also help improve on the quality we have in parliament. Kofi Ewo Hacho. Obi, okay, let me see this one. We say, Kwesi Aniki says, Obi Eyezu, please tell Honorable Zanetor that I want to have a picture with her, but I'm in Takrade. When is she coming here with former President John Mahama? Okay, Obi, no, good. We say, Obi, how will you know that all the narrations Zanetor is pouring down are true? From Mr. Dumso. Hey, Mr. Dumso. Okay, or the book about in the book Ukrano in the I'll go through the pages and then I'll verify for you pretty shortly. We say, Obi, good afternoon. In fact, Zanetor is not my MP, but listening to her, she's very deep. I see no arrogance. I see no selfishness on her part. I love her interview. I am Stanley. Stanley, thank you. Obi, good afternoon. Dr. Zanetor Agyeman-Rawling is such an intelligent lady. She would make a perfect running mate for President Mahama and also Ghana's first female president for the future. She would have my vote any day. Obi, keep up the good work. Prosper Domenyo Ewo Dakoman here in Accra. This one says, Obi, just by the way, listening to how she pronounces community, I can hear her dad's voice. I'm not an NDC person, but her father was my main man. I like her vigor. May Papa J's soul rest in perfect peace. KDM of Wolverhampton in the United Kingdom. We say, Obi, I can see that you are enjoying the English of Honorable Zanetor, so you even forgot that it's a cheap program. Anyway, we are all enjoying it. Greetings to Honorable Robert Lamte, incoming MP for Medina constituency. Obi, good afternoon. I like Honorable Zanetor. She's very intelligent. Honorable, keep up the good work. One for Woody and Cajon. Loads and loads of messages coming through. I'll come back to all of them. And I feel your questions are Akano, Yasan Eddie Ebusano. Young Conquotier way, Emra, Yaba. Na afi questions e wo ho no